Hi Claire, thank you for joining
Hey.
the session on the QI week. Could you start by just introducing yourself?
Yeah, so my name's Claire Jepson. I'm an occupational therapist and I currently work up on G1 ward at Grenoside. So for those who don't know, G1 ward's an acute assessment and treatment ward for people with dementia. You invited me to talk about the staff wellbeing sessions that we've been running on the ward. So I've been doing that along with some support from our chaplain, Siobhan Hoyes, and various OT staff and students. The sessions run weekly. They've been going since the beginning of March, and they're every Wednesday for a half-hour slot just before handover. So the sessions are open to everyone amongst the team, and quite a simple format. So we invite people to gather, to check in with each other. So we might share something that's happened during the week, be that work related or personal. And then we usually go into an activity. So there's a whole range of activities that we've engaged in.
It sounds great. Did this start just when COVID started?
So we used to do reflective practice sessions, which were like a combination of checking in with the team and reflecting on specific incidents or people. But they were like a monthly thing, and some were well attended, some weren't. But I noticed when lockdown hit, the anxiety amongst the team was through the roof, and there were a lot of really frightened people and lots of emotion being expressed, and the conversations that were taking place, on the ward were expressed a lot of fear and uncertainty. And I think there was a need to kind of not rein that in, but provide some kind of forum where we could share what we were feeling. So that was kind of the reasoning, for starting these sessions.
Great.
I think that from my point of view, there was a real need to kind of introduce something a bit light-hearted as well, because
Yeah,
people were
definitely.
struggling.
So did it, how long had COVID or lockdown been in place before this kind of got set up? Was it quite immediate, or did you notice over the...
Yeah, because it was March when we started doing the session. So I think lockdown was like the end of March, wasn't it?
Right,
So it was
okay.
it was around that time.
Right, so quite soon after it all
Yeah, yeah.
started to gather pace. So, so for yourself then and the team, what have you found to be the positives from doing this?
Okay, so initially, I mean, when we were doing it April, May time, the weather was behind us, and so we did it outside.
Oh
So it
wow,
was
yeah,
really nice, and that enabled us to be distanced as well. So we'd meet in the garden, and it was a really nice way for staff to start the shift. So
yeah,
they'd come, they'd chat, they'd offload a little bit, and then they'd do a fun activity. It broke down barriers as well, because we'd have doctors, support workers, therapy staff, just a real mix of people. And we're quite reliant on agency staff at the moment, which causes a lot of difficulties. And I think sometimes in the sessions it was good for bonding and team building. It's
right.
people getting to know each other on a personal level, not just as colleagues on the shop floor, as it were. Um, just being able to do something playful as well. So
Yeah.
so we did. We learnt some Indian dance steps for one
Wow.
session,
I
and
didn't
it was
expect
just
you to.
hilarious because we looked like a set of chuffs
Yeah.
pouncing around the garden. But it was great because people were in bits, they were laughing, and one of the support workers, the agency girls, she's the following week, she said, I went and did that with my mum because my mum were really flat and low. She couldn't go out, she couldn't see her mates. So we did it in the house and we had a great time. And I think it's been handy from my point of view to kind of share some ideas, some creative ideas with colleagues that they can then go on and use with patients.
Okay.
You
Have
know,
you found that
it's,
then? Have
giving them permission to try. Yeah.
you found some of those ideas being tried with...
Yeah, like with music and with creative stuff. Yeah.
So it sounds it sounds like it was set up to help people deal with the emotions of COVID, but actually loads of really nice spin-offs from this.
Yeah.
Like it sounds like all the different professions have engaged in it, and
Yeah.
it's actually, I guess, it's something about people spending time together and building those relationships in general.
It was really interesting because I think historically when I've been involved in reflective practice type groups, I think I've been maybe a bit forceful in wanting bums on seats and wanting people to engage. And, you know, it's voluntary, nobody has to come. But I found with these, especially when the weather was good, didn't really have to do much prompting people. We've had up to 14, Lee, which is a lot of staff. I mean, I'd say on average there's about 7 or 8 over which is pretty.
So I'm interested then, because obviously we facilitate lots of sessions. Did you kind of take a lead role in the facilitation, or is it group?
Yeah. I just felt it was needed. Siobhan, our chaplain, comes on a Wednesday anyway, which is great. So she's been able to get stuck in and share that responsibility. I've had a really great OT student for the last 10 weeks. She's just left. So in terms of the activity and ideas, she's come up with a lot of the things we've tried.
Right. So positives coming out of it. What would you say the challenges have been, if any?
I think space. So, I mean, I'm talking to you here now. I'm in a room with a sign that says keep out because it's been transformed into a visitor's room. We just really lack an appropriate space to do things like that. So if it's not raining, if it's raining, we're indoors in like a reception area up at Brenner side, which is big enough for people to spread out. It's not very private. So if somebody did share something that was quite emotional or personal, it's not an ideal environment. Yeah. We've got meeting rooms, but then that restricts the amount of people you can have around the table. So that's a real issue. For me, sometimes attitude, so other colleagues' attitude to things like this. I think sometimes there's still a perception, oh, it's Claire doing her arty-farty OT stuff, and it's really important, it's really valuable. But there seems to sometimes be a need to put other things in the diary at that time. So I've pushed for that not to happen anymore. Because it's not mandatory, it's not ticked. And it's not, like supervision, it has to happen and it ticks a box for CQC. This is a bit more, I suppose it's a bit more casual, even though it's equally, if not more important sometimes for people. Yeah.
So have you, from the sessions that you've, just remind me, does it run weekly or is it?
It's weekly, yeah.
So have you had many of the sessions cancelled or things put into place, or have you kept it quite consistent?
Kept it quite consistent. Unfortunately, the last couple of weeks when I've not been here, it's not happened on a Wednesday, but Andrew Roberts has started helping out. So we've got no psychologist at the moment, but Andrew's helping out. So he's provided some support for staff as well.
Right, so even when you're not here, it still went ahead?
Yeah, in a different,
So I suppose there'll be people listening to this who are interested in what you've done. What would you encourage other teams to do, or how would they get started doing this? What would you advise?
I think it's just having that half-hour protected time, which is doable. So I think 1:30, before handover, so you've got a fresh team coming on. Some of the staff already on the ward may be able to be released. It's not always possible. Be creative, don't overthink it. It doesn't have to be complicated. Don't put people on the spot. If people want to speak, they will. If they don't, that's fine. But just find a space, book the time in, and invite ideas from other people. So what I do at the end of each week is, what do you fancy doing next week? And sometimes they come up with ideas, sometimes they don't. But it's nice to.
Okay. Yeah. So do you think because it sounds like you've got a nice mix of people reflecting and sharing how they're feeling, but then having like a defined activity. Do you think that mix works quite well?
Sorry, what was that last bit, Lee?
Do you find having the mix of time to reflect and share how people are feeling, but then also a defined time for an activity, does that mix work quite well?
Yeah, there's been times when it's felt a bit. So there was a session where people were quite honest about how shitty they were feeling. And then it was like, right, I'm going to hand you over to my student. We're doing origami. And she was, oh God, like, I can't, make you feel better with this. But she did. So you'd got a group of people, they'd said the bit, the next minute they were in small groups creating different origami, following instruction, helping each other out, and they all went trotting off to hand over with their example, and there was humour and there was a sense of achievement, and things like that. So yeah, although it seems really, you're spilling your guts 1 minute and then you're doing something really playful 10 minutes later, it does work.
Yeah.
There has been a couple of times when people have felt a bit, this is not for me. That's fine. But I've encouraged them to attend the following week because the next activity might be for you. You know.
Yes. So have you found that the same people attend each week, or have you found that a lot of people from across the ward are dipping in and out weeks?
You do get your regulars, so there's a couple of the doctors that have consistently come. The support workers, because of the changing shift patterns, that changes each week. And then there's some that, you'll never get through the door, which, that's fine. It's not for everyone.
Okay, good. So I suppose my final question is what does the future hold for this staff wellbeing group? Where would you like to see it go?
Well, as long for the time I'm here on G1, it'll continue, and it might be nice to share, like we're doing now, I suppose, to share to a wider audience and guide other people on how to do them.
And imagine when COVID's no longer with us, if there'll ever be a time, would you even continue this outside of COVID?
Yeah, because I said that after seeing how people responded, because initially that's all we talked about in the checking in bit, and people were sharing ways on how they were using the time, when they couldn't access loved ones and stuff. But then it shifted and people began to speak about other things. So the value remains, COVID or no COVID.
Brilliant. Well, I think you've answered all the questions I had. It sounds a fascinating piece of work, and I think maybe our team could benefit from a weekly. Just as an aside to this conversation, we'll be sharing a little poster with some of the feedback you've sent me from staff, so people can log on to that and have a look as well. If people are interested in setting this up in their areas, would you encourage them to contact you with the?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm happy for people to get in touch. That'd be nice.
Okay, well, thank you for your time, because I know it's busy on the wards and you've just.
No problem, Lee. Thanks for asking.
No, it's always a pleasure to hear about the work you're doing.
Thank you.
So, I'll take care.
You too. Bye bye.